Good morning, class. We talk of the new chapter, Human Environment, Settlement, Transport and Communication. Now, before we move on doing this chapter, we need to understand the meaning of the chapter that we are undertaking. Now, we are talking about human environment. That means the place where the human being resides or settles down. Now, what are his settlement types? Then the means of transportation, that means the various methods he uses to commute from one place to another. And then the communication, that means the various means and ways which he follows to converse or interact with people. So we will be dealing about various aspects of human environment settlements, the mode of transport, and his ways of communication in this chapter. Okay, so we are to know about the concept of settlement and types of settlements. That means whether they were permanent, whether they are permanent settlements or temporary settlements. Then we need to know about the means of transport, whether the means is available in roadways, railways, waterways, or airways. And then we talk of the importance of communication and the various types of communications. Okay, so we first begin with settlement. Settlement is one of the basic needs of human beings. As we all know, we all need somewhere where we can settle down. Now, human beings live in villages or towns which largely depend on several factors like land, soil, water, plants, animals, minerals, etc. Now, we all know that we all prefer the living in a land which is even, which is the soil which is fertile, where there is plenty of water leading to plants growing in large number, animals available, and the mineral resources at hand. So these are the various factors on which we depend upon for the settlements. A normal human being would settle at a place where there will be even land, not on mountains or in deserts, where there will be rich soil, a fertile soil, instead of a barren land, where there will be ample supply of water instead of scarcity of water. So, and so on. So, these are the best suited places for human settlement. Then, apart from it, there are climatic factors like temperature and rainfall also, which affect the human settlements. Of course, you cannot live in a frozen hilltop which is covered with snow, or in a desert area where the climate is burning hot. So, obviously, temperature plays a very important role, and so does the rainfall of an area. Okay. Now, house is the basic unit of residence which varies greatly in size and location. Now, obviously, we all need a house to live in, and it should have a basic availability for any human to reside. Okay, we all live in houses. We don't live in jungles or treetops. We have houses. Now, the size and location of your house depends on the residential area you opt for. Now, houses reflect the influence of environment on their architectural styles. Now, the houses which are built, they are according to the environment in which they are. Like supposing in a hot desert climate, houses are made of mud walls with flat roofs. The thick mud wall keeps the house cool during the day, as mud is a bad conductor of heat. Now, in regions of heavy rain, the roof of houses are sloping to allow the rainwater to drain away quickly. So these houses types also are built according to the climate or the place where the people are residing or settling down. Okay. Now, settlements are places where people build their homes. Please underline the meaning. What a settlement is. It is a place where the people build their homes. Early human beings lived on trees and in caves. So, early human beings, we all know, they didn't had houses. They either lived in caves or on trees. As the time passed, they started to live in clusters as a permanent settlement. Initially, two factors helped the growth and development of settlements. Now, we all know that early man lived earlier a nomadic life where he was moving from one place to another another in search of shelter. But gradually, he started living a settled life once the agricultural areas grew. That means once he learned the art of growing crops, he settled at one place, looked after his crops, and he was no longer a food gatherer. He became a food producer. Okay. He was no longer moving from one place to another in search of food. Rather, he had his own food to look after. So now there are various settlements, ways in which, and they have resulted in growth of a particular settlement. And the factors are: number one, he started to grow crops which required constant care during growing and ripening of crops. So, first factor which led to a permanent way of life was the growing of crops. Once he started growing crops, he knew that he had to settle in one place so that he could look after and take care of those crops. Then the second reason was the production of food crop increased even during non-cropping seasons. Farmers had enough surplus of food there to feed their families. So they stopped wandering in search of food. So see, I told you with the coming of agriculture, they started living a settled life. Now the settlements grew near the river valleys due to constant availability of water and fertile land. With the development of trade, commerce, and manufacturing, human settlements became larger. So, all these factors are important because availability of water for the crops and then the fertile land, that means the soil was rich in supply. All these factors led to massive settlements and development in that area. Then with the settlements, the trade, commerce, etc. grew, the manufacturing of goods increased in number, the productivity rate increased, and the human settlements, they became larger. Okay, is this much clear? Now we come on to types of settlements. Now, types of settlements can be classified as permanent or temporary. Now, as the word tells you, permanent, it means when people live settled life at one place, it is called a permanent settlement. That means they are no longer moving from one place to another. However, more and more settlements today are permanent settlements. In these settlements, people build houses to live in. We all know that. And it's a very common factor. We all live in a permanent settlement. We all have a house and we don't keep changing it. Now, temporary settlements, when a group of people occupy a place to settle down for a short period of time, it is called a temporary settlement. Okay. Now, the people living in deep forests, hot and cold deserts, mountains often live in such temporary settlements. So, obviously, for example, they have given you Gurjars or Bakarwals of Kashmir region, which move towards high mountains with their cattle during summer and return back during winter, live in a temporary settlement every year. So these people who are living in adverse parts, they have to keep on changing their houses according to the climatic changes. Okay, so these are temporary settlements. Then we talk of types of settlements on the basis of economic activities. That means those activities which are taking place because of the economic settlements. Let us talk of that. If we look around, we can identify two different pictures of settlement: the rural and the urban settlements. Now, economic means money related, and we all know that rural areas are the villages, okay, and the urban areas or the more settled urban settlements are the city settlements. Okay, so let us see them. We have classified it into rural settlements. Now, these means the villages are rural settlements. A rural settlement largely depends upon agriculture and related occupations like fishing, forestry, craftswork, trading, etc. The rural settlements have different shapes and sizes. The site of the village, surrounding topography, and the terrain influence the shape and size of a village. On the basis of these factors, rural settlements may be compact or scattered. Now, rural settlements means settling in a village. Now, on the basis of the work they choose, either it could be overcrowded, that is a compact settlement, or a scattered, that means far away from the each other's houses, scattered. Okay, so let us see the compact one. In such kind of settlements, houses built are very close to each other. These are mostly found in the highly productive alluvial plains and northeastern states. A compact settlement based on farming comprises houses, farm structures, and other buildings such as religious centers, fields for grazing animals, and growing crops. Surrounding the village buildings, compact settlements due to defense are found in Bundelkhand region of central India and in Nagaland. So they are telling you about the compact settlements there because of the availability of alluvial soil, which is a highly productive soil. The settlements are very close by, and in those settlements, mostly the villages have the houses, the farms, the religious centers, fields for grazing animals, etc., very close by. Then we call of scattered settlements. Scattered or dispersed settlements are generally found in the areas of extreme climates like hilly tracts, thick forests, grasslands, poor agricultural lands. Now here the houses are scattered over a large area. In such type of settlements, in these kind of settlements, the houses are placed away from each other. They are very sparsely situated. Okay, they are scattered, they are dispersed off. Okay, now in rural areas, people build houses to suit their environment. Now, in regions of heavy rainfall, again, they'll have slanting roofs. Now, places where water accumulates in the rainy season, the houses are constructed on a raised platforms, etc., or on stilts. Now, the houses on which are made on bamboo sticks and are at a higher level of from the ground, these are the stilts, houses built on stilts. That means one raised raised from the houses raised from the ground. Then we talk of urban settlements. That means the settlements in the cities. Now, the settlements in which most of the people are engaged in secondary and tertiary activity. You remember what secondary and tertiary activities are? Not related to agriculture or the prime activities. Like here, we talked of agriculture, fishing, forestry, crafts work, trading, etc. So these are the primary occupations. Now we call off secondary and tertiary. Now those secondary and tertiary activities are like industries, trade, commercial administration, transportation, hospitals, education. Now all these are known as urban places because these urban settlements have all these facilities. So in other words, we can say that urban relates to cities or towns. Okay, the urban settlements can be identified by the following characteristics. What is the best way to identify the urban settlement? That means a city life. First is the size of your population. So in urban areas, a large population is found. Then economic activities, that means money related activities. So in urban areas, majority of workers are engaged in non-agricultural activities for their means of living. Okay. Then third jota says an urban area has a municipality, cantonment board, or a notified area. So that means we talked about the various administrative bodies in the local administration. So they have these areas which are under urban, with the areas which are urban areas, they have those municipalities to look after their administration. Now, towns may be classified on the basis of their site, situation, size, rank, location, etc. But towns and cities are generally classified on the basis of functions they perform. So, what are the functions which they perform? Let us see the administrative towns, that means where the administration is done. Like in UP, the state has Lucknow as its administrative town. Why? Because it is the capital. The main function of such towns is to administer the country or the state or a specific territory. It includes not only the capital cities, but also the capitals of states, district, and other administrative divisions of the country. For example, like Delhi, like Mumbai, like Jaipur, etc. These are administrative towns. The basic administration, how to govern the following state or the particular areas or districts are undertaken in these cities, okay, or in these towns. Then the second is defensive towns. That means those towns which are closer to the border with the neighboring countries, those towns will be more of defensive towns. The defensive towns have barracks, then cantonments, training facilities for armed forces, airfields, and harbors for warships. Example they have given you is Vishakhapatnam and Khandal Khadagwasla are the examples of such towns. Khadagwasla is the famous center for army, defense people. They get their training here. So these are the areas for defense towns. Then we talk of cultural centers. Now these include religious as well as educational centers. In these towns, we find colleges, libraries, hostels, churches, temples, mosques, parks, etc. Like example, when we talk of Varanasi, or here they have given you the example of Haridwar, Makkah, Aligarh, Meerut, Roorkee, Jerusalem, Oxford, etc. So these are either the places for religious importance or they are famous for their educational point of view. Then number 4, we talk of collection centers. Now the mining towns, like the towns which are rich in minerals, then fishing ports, that means places which are next to coastal areas, and lumbering centers, that means which are rich in forests where the cutting of trees take place. Lumbering means cutting of trees, fall under the category of collection centers. Like example, they have given you Dhanbad, Jharia, Paradeep are examples of collection centers. Now, industrial towns, urban places, towns, and cities in which some kinds of manufacturing are the major functions are known as industrial towns. Example, Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bhilai. Here, there are various mining centers and big industries are set up for iron and steel, etc. So these are industrial towns. So here they are telling you both towns and villages are interdependent on each other. Definitely, for anything, we need to be interdependent. The villages supply food grains, fruits, vegetables, and other agricultural raw materials to the towns, which in return they supply industrial goods needed in the villages. So here we tell you that both are interdependent for their needs, and we